Matt Taibbi wrote a spectacular takedown of David Brooks for Rolling Stone. If you guys haven't read it, I highly recommend doing so. There'll be a link in the episode recap at wearecitizenradio.com that you can click on, and it'll take you over to Rolling Stone.
I'm very excited to read this.
So David Brooks wrote another terrible column, because that's what he does, entitled "Freedom Loses One." And Taibbi writes the article.
You said that's what he does. I just picture the New York Times like, David, you got your terrible column yet? Working on it. Here's one terrible column.
Yeah, that's how I assume things are there. So Taibbi writes, the article is a sarcastic broadside against something, though it's not clear exactly which of the many post-60s permissive society hobgoblins Brooke hates is the real target here. So, ostensibly, the column purports to take a single ironic point, which is that by petitioning the Supreme Court for the right to marry, gays and lesbians were not expanding their freedoms, and thus continuing, as Brooks implies, a long and perhaps regrettable winning streak for people's rights to follow their desires that dates back to those hated 60s, but rather constraining them. Brooks puts it this way. So this is David Brooks. But last week saw a setback for the forces of maximum freedom. A representative of millions of gays and lesbians went to the Supreme Court and asked the court to help put limits on their own freedom of choice. They asked for marriage. So essentially, this is Allison right now. Hello.
Hi.
What Brooks is saying is the 60s babies and everybody who's come after them, all the progressives, we want freedom, right? We want to be able to fuck in the streets and, I don't know, whatever he thinks like his cartoon version of liberals are in his mind. We want all the freedom.
Fucking in the streets on top of a stack of welfare checks.
Yes.
While also waving, so one hand is obviously helping to fuck, maybe on the person's hips, and the other hand is beckoning illegal immigrants, you're clear, in under the fence.
And then we have sex with the immigrants.
And then we make little, first we get an abortion because we're we don't like that one. So we abort our first immigrant baby. Mm-hmm. Then we have more immigrant babies. And then those immigrant babies learn about evolution. And then I think it ends with us murdering God.
Yes. Very vivid. Thank you. So he's saying, oh, you want all the freedoms. Then isn't it ironic that you then want to be shackled by this institution of marriage that takes away your freedom? So Taibbi, in awesome Taibbi style, it's hilarious. Really do check out the article, says it's not about restricting freedoms. This is about justice. They want equality. Obviously straight people are allowed to marry. So gay people want to be able to marry too. And marriage isn't about sacrificing your freedom. It's about you're going into a willing contract with each other. No one is making you get married. That's your freedom of choice to get married.
Also, as a Catholic, I believe David Brooks is, I'm pretty sure he's written pro-marriage pieces about how marriage is between a man and a woman. This is just him obviously trying to be a condescending piece of shit, which is what he does.
Yeah,
condescending piece of shit here.
Taibbi just wrote at one point, what an asshole! Because he is. This is such an asshole, condescending thing to say. That gay people are going to be dumb enough to read a Brooks article and go, oh, I never thought of it that way. I'm sacrificing my 60s freedom.
And then David's going to whisper to his wife, I think we tricked him. Let's go back to our happy marriage. David, just because your marriage sounds like a shackled shit show doesn't mean that all marriages are a shackled shit show. And the bottom line is that, we have a country that I don't even know why I'm trying to logically argue with this, but so many rights depend on marriage in our country. If you are not married, if me and Allison weren't married, or I'm sorry, if my husband, my boyfriend, and I weren't married and he was dying in the hospital and they say you can't see him unless you're married, I couldn't be like, well, marriage is a lame institution anyway. And they'd be like, oh, you read David Brooks, come on in. I legally wouldn't be allowed to see him. Because of the Defense of Marriage Act, if my husband lived overseas, he wouldn't be able to move over here right away and I would be forced to go over there like some of our friends have to do. God damn it, so many rights are tied to marriage, adopting a child, like so many different things, that it's not about, oh, I just want to, whatever awful 90s stand-up comic you saw describe marriage, David Brooks, or whatever weird world you're living in. Like, it's not like, oh, I want a woman to tell me what to do and not let me play basketball with the boys on Sunday. Like, it's about more than that.
Yeah, and I like how Taibbi phrases it. He writes, the whole world seems rapidly to be coming to an understanding that this is discrimination against gays and lesbians, and it has to end. And the fact that this change is coming is a beautiful thing. You have to be a very unhappy person, indeed, to feel anything but joy about it, right. Much less this sarcastic depression.